Hi, today I'm going to be talking about how I got myself from a super anxious attachment style to something that feels a lot more secure. When I say super anxious attachment style, I kind of mean super anxious because I was constantly stuck in the cycle of asking myself, oh, why don't they like me? Why are they not texting me back? Is there something wrong with me? Did I do something wrong? And then constantly seeking reassurance and constantly in fear of someone abandoning me or leaving me. This sounds like a huge emotional roller coaster, and it definitely is. No one should be putting themselves through that kind of emotional labor when the majority has a much more healthier attachment style, and it's completely within our reach to be able to cultivate one for ourselves as well. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about two main ways in which we could start to develop a secure attachment style from an anxious one. And for reference, everything that I'm going to be talking in this video is going to be backed up by Insecure in Love and Attached, which are two really good psychology books that talk about attachment styles and how we can nurture ourselves in adulthood to have something called earned security. So let's start with the first one. Okay, so let's start with pathway number one. It's going to be about building a relationship with someone who is an emotionally available person who encourages you to grow and makes you feel validated in being capable of being loved just as you are, because you do not have to be perfect to be loved. This doesn't have to be a romantic partner. It could be a close friend, a family member, a therapist, or even a higher spirit or spirituality like God. The most important thing is that this person needs to make you feel safe, heard, and supported during times of need. That's because the more you experience this feeling of being accepted and loved, the more you start believing that you deserve that love. And that's when you start to earn security. When you realize that you don't have to be perfect to be loved, you can just be who you are and you can be safe in that feeling. And then now, the second part of this journey is just as important. It's called nurturing compassionate self-awareness, which you will notice has two parts to it. It has self-awareness and it has self-compassion. Because here's the thing, your emotions, no matter how messy they are, they're here to guide you. And if you have been stuck in this anxious attachment cycle for a while, then you are probably used to taking your emotions and trying to either stuff them down or overthink them to the point of exhaustion. So what helps is that you have to be able to journal so that you build the self-awareness of your emotions and your thoughts. Take a situation the next time you feel something that's bubbling up a lot of emotions within you and write down the situation, write down how it's making you physically feel, and write down what the thoughts that's making you think of are, even if they're negative. And over time, as you refer to this, you're going to start to be able to see patterns and open channels in your brain where you're able to come up with disconfirming evidence to the things that make you think negative thoughts about yourself. And you're going to find that most often, this just practice of writing down what your emotions are going to make you realize that you have control over your emotions before they start to spiral out of control, especially when you just see them all laid out on the page like that. And another powerful tool for building self-awareness is something called mentalizing. Mentalizing is all about reflecting on your own thoughts and emotions while staying curious to what other people's motives are too. So when you're anxiously attached, it's really easy to assume the worst of yourself and, that the other person is probably perfect and it would be acting in a way that's very rational, and worst of yourself and, that the other person is probably perfect and it would be acting in a way that's very rational and and without blame or fault. And I've done that before. Like, for example, if you're getting ghosted and you're like, oh, I really thought that this was going to work out. Maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe there was something wrong with me. But if you think and you stop and ask yourself, what if there's more to that story? You're going to start to realize that the other person has an entire personality and life story and traumas that might be leading them to act in ways that you can't understand right now. And you might not even have the information to be able to fully comprehend. So Instead of jumping to conclusions, if you stay curious and mentalize about the situation, you can realize that the person who ghosted you might have had their own reasons for doing so that has nothing to do with you, and they probably did. So that all is self-awareness. And then now we're going to move to self-compassion, which being self-aware is great, but if you're not pairing that with some kind of self-compassion, you're basically missing half the puzzle. So self-compassion, it's all about being kind to yourself when things don't go as planned. So going back to that example of being ghosted, instead of beating yourself up, you have to treat yourself the way that you would treat a friend. Remind yourself that everyone struggles and that you didn't have to be perfect to be lovable, and a lot of other people go through the same situation. So a big part of the self-compassion aspect is self-kindness in this way, doing things that make you comforted in a healthy way. So for me, that's usually going on a walk or journaling or talking to someone when I'm feeling low. But for you, it could be other things. And it can be helpful to keep a list of all the things that make you feel like you are supported and able to cope healthily, and keep that list handy, especially when you're going through a time of crisis and can't think of those things right away. So overall, what I've talked about today is two main pathways in which you could start to shift from anxious attachment to something more secure. It starts with having something called self-compassion, and then also being able to find a figure where you could turn to see and demonstrate to yourself that you're willing to have a healthy relationship where you are enough just the way you are. And in the self-compassion department, you got to develop self-awareness where you're constantly keeping in mind an awareness of your thoughts and your emotions, and you're able to mentalize and stay curious about what the other person's motives might be. And you're also developing compassion, which is self-kindness towards yourself, and that you are treating yourself as you would a friend, with understanding and support, and keeping things in handy that will make you feel like you are taking care of yourself and prioritizing your own needs. Overall, if you keep doing these things over time, you're going to develop a natural security within yourself, and then you're going to be able to go from an anxious attachment style to a secure attachment style within yourself. And personally, I am doing all of these things, but it still feels like I am still in this journey of improving and growing and learning as a person. But I'm really glad to be in this position where I can try to take this advice and see how it takes me. And definitely in future videos, I would be really happy to explain exactly how my journey is going as well. But yes, thanks for watching.